This short documentary will deal with David Shepherd's involvement in Southern Africa over the past many years. David is a world-renowned wildlife artist, conservationist, but perhaps less known is the fact that he has a great personal interest and passion in steam locomotives.
I mean, steam engines are living things. You talk to any steam engine driver, talk to the guy on the footplate now, and he says after his wife he loves it, as I do. You know, I mean, we all say the same thing. A diesel is inanimate. You know, if a fuse blows about that big in the guts of a diesel, you sit there, there's nothing you can do about it. But these things respond. They're alive.
In pursuit of his personal interest in steam locomotives, David came to an arrangement back in 1991 to swap a painting he did of a South African steam locomotive, number 3052, for the actual locomotive itself.
In exchange for this engine, we are taking possession of an inspiring work of art from Mr. David Shepherd.
This was gifted to him at a ceremony in Kimberley in 1991, where Avril, his wife, was present, and the locomotive was officially handed over. David's wife Avril broke a bottle of champagne as part of that celebration. Although the option existed for David to move 3052 to the UK, perhaps as a static exhibit, he rather chose to make it available in South Africa as a working locomotive. I was privileged to meet David at a dinner at RAF Northolt in North London. The occasion was the memorial dinner for the legendary Battle of Britain pilot Cat's-Eyes Cunningham, who died in 2002, and this dinner was, of course, a short while after that. David and I happened to be sitting next to each other, and he was very quick to tell me that he owned a very large South African locomotive, namely a 15F, and did I know anything about steam engines? When David realized that I knew something about steam locomotives, he expressed concern about the well-being of 3052, namely his locomotive, and asked me if I wouldn't mind carrying out an inspection and coming back to him and giving him some thoughts on what its future might be. In fact, the locomotive had ended up at Mason's Mill, which was a steam depot in Pietermaritzburg in Natal. It was in good condition, but it was somewhat threatened by security concerns that we had, and I recommended to David that it be put back into steam and that we move it to greater security in the Eastern Free State at the Sandstone Heritage Trust. David agreed with that immediately, and we then liaised with the people in Natal. We got it back into steam with the help of Umgeni Steam Railway, and the next big challenge was to move it to 400 kilometers from Natal up to the Free State province, and we were very fortunate to receive excellent cooperation from the railway authorities, who agreed to move it under light steam, i.e. towed by electric units, all the way to Bethlehem. This was duly carried out, and it was a pretty formidable undertaking, bearing in mind the slow speeds that it had to travel and the fact that it had to keep being taken off the main line onto passing loops to allow mainline traffic to go by. In fact, the last 75 kilometers was actually from Bethlehem to Vicksburg, and that was under its own steam, so it wasn't hauled for the entire distance. It certainly proved what a good, solid locomotive this was turning out to be. That particular move was carried out by volunteers from Friends of the Rail in Pretoria, and they did an excellent job of bringing the locomotive safely to Sandstone Heritage Trust. David was reunited with 3052 again in 2006 when he indicated that he would love to come out and spend some time with us. The loco was specially steamed, and a number of short-distance excursions took place in and along the Eastern Free State line.
this thing, oh God, I don't want to call her a thing, but she's so fast. And this, I mean, I've got my foot on one of the most monumental designs ever designed, isn't it? This automatic, what do you call it, the automatic stoker. Yeah. Terrifying. I gather if you get your foot caught down in there, you lose a leg. And it's a lovely practice in the days of steam on South African railways in the old days when they named their engines after their girlfriends or mistresses or wives. It's lovely. So a bloody great thing, you know, this size is named Patricia.
Mike,
really sexy. Yeah, we better not get on to that. You'll draw me out from the subject. Enough to give me a... Never mind.
Because the Sandstone Heritage Trust is a 2-foot narrow gauge railway, there was no real opportunity for us to use a big locomotive like that. We'd been unsuccessful in arranging some sort of concession on the Eastern Free State line due to political opposition at the time, and so we decided to move all our mainline locomotives up to the reef and to put them with reef steamers. That move duly took place, and 3052 was now in a position to be of some use, and reef steamers started to use the locomotive on fairly regular occasions to haul passenger trains, which is again what everybody wanted to see. Unfortunately, big steam locomotives, just like people, wear out over time and need constant care, attention and upgrading. In fact, 3052 is the same vintage as I am, namely 1944. And it was obvious after a detailed inspection of her condition that she needed a major overhaul. We were keen to keep the locomotive in use. We wanted to find more work fit, and again, David readily agreed. He, however, was concerned that it would become a liability for him, and his suggestion that he simply transfer it into our ownership was, I think, a very good one, because it provided us with an opportunity to get on with the job without him being burdened with a potential headache regarding costs going forward. The locomotive was brought up to a good operational condition by reef steamers in late 2015. Because reef steamers had other alternative locomotives that they could use, 3052 wasn't critical to them, whereas it was something that was critical to Friends of the Rail in Pretoria. They had no reliable traction. They were under pressure to run passenger trains to Cullinan over weekends, and so we decided to assist them, and that's where 3052 is at the moment. It's capable of pulling much bigger passenger trains than the 24 class that Friends of the Rail had been using, and therefore increased their revenue substantially. And 3052 has an enormous capability to generate revenue because of the big trains it can pull and the fact that it's a very reliable locomotive in its own right. It's working hard at the moment. It's got very heavy axle loadings, so consequently some of the opportunities that are open to it, like in the Western Cape, are a bit limited due to its technical specifications. But David needs to know that his locomotive is very well looked after. Les Labuskaghni, who we specifically tasked with the job of being its caretaker, has been, I think, very sensible.
What you doing there, Les? Putting some hard grease in the connecting rods. And giving it some good old lubrication. It's running very smoothly, actually. You can hear it when you're driving. You can actually feel it. You've got to have the feeling of driving a steam engine. It's got to be in your blood. It's not just a matter of getting behind the regulator and opening up and off you go. There's so much more to it. And if you do not have that feeling inside of you, and that what we call die gogge in die bloed, the bug in the blood, that's what it actually takes. It was actually built to be a mainline high-speed steam locomotive for passenger and freight in its days. It's a 482. It's mechanically fired, obviously because of the size of the firebox. It weighs out at 223 tons, full of water, full of coal. It produces over 30,000 pounds of tractive effort.
I can imagine that the thing that probably most delights David is the pleasure that the locomotive gives to thousands of people every month. Families who absolutely love riding by on steam trains, and I wonder if David even imagined that that would happen back in the days when he took delivery of the locomotive. We've given an undertaking to David that one way or the other this locomotive will remain a sustainable heritage entity for many, many years to come. We would also like to take this opportunity to say what an absolute pleasure it's been to work with David over the years. His good humour, his generosity of spirit has been beyond reproach. And we're so happy that he knows that all his efforts were not in vain, and that probably more than ever in its life, 3052 has the backing, the support, and the potential to remain an icon for the next couple of centuries, if necessary.
Mr. Shepherd, it's an honour and a privilege to be in charge of this locomotive. It is a beaut to drive. She steams so well. You can literally stand there and just throw lumps of coal into the firebox and she's on the red mark. And thank you for the opportunity to be the driver on this locomotive. But I'd also like to just say thank you to the Sandstone Heritage Trust, to Wilfred Mole and Mark Myers, for allowing me and giving me the responsibility to look after this locomotive. It is an honour and an absolute privilege. Thank you.